Hello and welcome to this video on budgeting. You probably already know what a budget is. You've probably made a budget for your own personal or family finances before. However, budgets are also used in a range of organizations, from the smallest corner store up to multinational corporations, and even our federal government creates budgets. So what is a budget? It's a quantitative plan for the future. We're using numbers and dollars to try and plan out what our business or our organization is going to do in the future. How are we going to acquire and use resources in the next period of time? There are a lot of benefits of budgeting. A budget is able to communicate the objectives of management throughout the entire organization. It requires different functions of a business to all talk to each other and communicate about what they're trying to achieve. So the benefits of budgeting often come down to improved communication throughout the organization. And the budget also improves management's planning, operating, and controlling decisions. An obvious one is it improves managers' ability to plan. By creating a budget, it forces management to sit down and think about what they want to achieve in future years. It might be short-term plans in the next few months, all the way out to strategic planning over the next 3 to 5 years. So management are forced to plan and develop objectives and goals for the organization. Do we want to open up a new store this year? How many new stores do we want to open up in 3 years or 5 years? What products are we planning to create and innovate and release in the next couple of years? If we want to release new products, what do we need to do in terms of allocating resources to the development, manufacture? All those kind of questions come down and are discussed and planned for in the budget creation process. Operating decisions are also made easier when you've got a budget to refer to. When managers are making day-to-day decisions such as, should I give this staff member a pay rise? Can we afford to hire new staff? Can I provide a discount on this purchase? Should I outsource some functions of my business? By looking at the budget, we can see what's required for managers to achieve the organization's goals and how different decisions will fit into the budget and therefore how it will help them achieve the goals of the firm's finances. Budgeting also helps with controlling decisions. Primarily, we're going to evaluate, did we meet or exceed our budget targets? We're going to go back and look at how we actually performed compared to what our forecasts were in the budget. We're going to analyze any variances between the budget and the actual performance, and then we'll analyze what went wrong, what went right, and what were the causes for the budget differing to reality. Then when teams have beat their budgets, maybe they'll be getting bonuses and motivated to continue their good performance. If teams are repeatedly not meeting their budgets, we need to maybe provide more training or look at new staffing requirements. All these kind of areas allow the managers to control their organization by evaluating budgeted performance to actual performance. So how do we actually prepare a budget? Well, most organizations prepare a budget annually, with some organizations preparing rolling budgets, which means every quarter they have a plan for at least the next 12 months. So on a rolling timescale, they keep preparing 1 year into the future. When you're preparing a budget, you're going to create what's called a master budget. And within that master budget, there'll be multiple sub-budgets that all focus on different activities of the business. So the master budget starts with a sales budget. The first thing we want to budget for is our forecast future sales. When we have come up with our forecast future sales, it allows us to plan all the other activities in the business around that. So you start off by forecasting your future sales. You need to know the quantity of products you're going to sell and the estimated price you're going to sell it for to come up with some sort of revenue prediction. When you're forecasting your sales, obviously you're trying to think about what's going to happen in the future, and that's incredibly difficult to get right. You need to consider a whole range of business factors when you're doing your forecasting. Most businesses will start with prior period sales and then try and build on that based on economic trends, regional trends, if they're planning any marketing or advertising campaigns, or if they're going to be launching new products or changing their existing products. Once we have our sales forecast, we then need to think about what's next. If we're a manufacturing firm, we need to manufacture our products that we're planning to sell. If we're a retail firm, we need to make sure we go out and purchase the products that we're planning to sell. So given the forecast sales levels, we need to then create either a production or purchases budget to make sure that we actually have enough inventory on hand to sell it when needed. Next up, we'll also have to create a selling and administrative expenses budget. This is going to include all the other costs that the business have outside the production or purchases. So it'll include our administrative costs, marketing, selling and distribution, head office costs, the salaries of management teams. All of those things will be budgeted for in the selling and admin expense budget. Finally, the accountants and finance department of your organization will want a cash budget. Managing cash flow is one of the most important considerations in a business. We need to have cash on hand to pay our bills, to make sure we're paying the bank back any interest and principal on loans we've got. So a cash budget is really crucially important. It summarizes all the cash receipts and cash disbursements, and it's important to have this budget in addition to all our other budgets because sales and cash flow do not always occur at the same time. Our sales forecast might forecast large future sales, but some of our customers might not give us cash for those sales until perhaps 30 or 60 days later. So we need to make sure we've got enough cash in the time frame between the sale being made and when our customer's paying us. Likewise, when we purchase things, we may not always pay cash up front. We may have to make the payments 30 days or 60 days later, so we also account for that in our cash budget. After we've gone through our process of creating our sales budget, production, admin cost budgets, all the different budgets, we'll often try and create financial statements based on our budgets. So we'll at least create a budgeted profit and loss and balance sheet as well to give us an idea of what we hope the future is going to look like for our business. These budgeted financial statements are kept internally. They are not released to the public. So they're not full financial statements that get released. They're internal documents that get kept and used by managers within the organization. They're not for external users. So we just covered a very brief overview of budgets. Other sub-budgets can be developed for different items, especially capital expenditure budgets, and specific projects and teams will also have their own budgets that they have to focus on. We've covered very briefly the overview of why budgets are important and how to go through the process of creating them. But it's also important to understand that there's a lot of psychological factors that influence how employees respond to budgetary pressures and concerns. And additionally, there's psychological factors that influence people who are making the budget forecasts and if they're likely to be accurate or not. So that's also something, in addition to the numbers, the way people behave based on those numbers is an important consideration that managers need to take into account. Next, I'd like you to practice preparing a budget, actually going through and using the numbers and thinking about how the different budget items interrelate with each other into the master budget. So please go through and practice your weekly activity. Thank you very much.